Good morning. So I'm going to talk to you today about Eggborough Power Station with a nod to Josh's title, which I stole and tweaked slightly. This is the tale of 8 cooling towers, which, as we all know, is better than 2 chimneys. So this was, or this is still a job for DSM, and they use Special Explosive Services as well for the demolition, the explosive engineering on the scheme. And we were the structure engineers, so responsible for checking the structure for the pre-weakening works and making sure it's going to fall, stand up when we want it to, and hopefully fall down when the explosives go off. Hopefully is the word I use because it doesn't always happen. In this case, it did. Bit of a spoiler, but yeah, it worked. So they tackled them in 2 sets of 4. The first 4 in August and the second 4 in October of this year. DSM are actually demolishing the whole of Eggborough Power Station, but this was the first major bit to get done. Now, these cooling towers have had a bit of a checkered past. There was one, I can't remember which site it was, back in the 70s, I believe, might be in the 80s, where the cooling tower failed and collapsed. Following that, a lot of the cooling towers around the country were actually strengthened. They found that the wind loads around them significantly increased, which meant that the designs that had been completed weren't quite robust enough. So, and I can assure you, when you stand underneath those towers, the wind really does whistle under there, really does cause I think almost like a vortex around them. It's incredibly windy, even on quite a calm day. So, as I said, we did the engineering work on this. The first phase of that was proving you could take out one of the diagonal columns that allowed, and a bit of the lower wall that allowed plant access inside the cooling towers and strip out all of the grillage, cribbage, which sits inside it, over which water runs to cool the exhaust steam. So that was the first phase of the works. The second phase is to prove that the pre-weakening doesn't cause the towers to become unstable. Now that has 2 parts. The first bit being they do what we call a pre-blast or a test blast that just demonstrates the amount of explosive required to weaken the shell sufficiently. So they'll choose a small area of the structure, and they choose one leg typically on a cooling tower, and they blow it just to prove that they've got the amount of explosive correct and get an idea of how it's going to fragment, how far fly is going to go, that sort of thing, and whether their proposed protection around the explosives is going to do the trick. So, SES obviously know their stuff. They've done enough of these now to know with a good deal of certainty what's going to work. But these ones, because they'd been strengthened, and you had the original shell, then you had a grout, before a spraycrete and another layer of mesh. Again, it was important to check that they actually behaved as we thought they were. The idea with these towers is to blow out 2/3 of the circumference on the side that you want it to fall, and the same with the columns, roughly. You blow those and then gravity does the rest for you. So this was, I took my sons along to watch this, because it's quite a spectacle. So we all got out of bed nice and early, drove down to Eggborough. Got some nice bacon rolls from DSM, which was good. And then got to stand there and see this in action, which was quite something. The first cooling towers I've ever been to see blown down, that's for sure. Had a good view. So that was quite an exciting morning. The boys still talk about now. In fact, we got given these special passes to get us onto the site, and Cameron's got it on his bedroom wall still. I think it's a day they're going to remember. But what the most amazing thing about it was, in fact, you can see it if I replay it. You see the flash of the explosives, you see it start to move when it gets going. So you see the explosives, and you don't hear the explosion for quite some time. That was the weirdest thing about it. You'd have thought the distance, how far away you were, it'd almost be at the same time, but it really wasn't. It was quite strange, quite surreal. And then we have the proper video that DSM did, which is a bit more spectacular than that. So not quite that great quality. I think I must have got a low-res version of it. You see all their plant there, including the Super Beast they have, their huge high-rich machine. And this is actually the second one. You can see the first 4 there, which we went to see. This is the second 4 going down. It's always amazing the way the concrete folds up. It's almost like it's paper when it folds up as it comes down. It's incredible. See how flexible it becomes. And interesting to see how one of them actually shears off, rather than 3 of them folding quite nicely. One of them shears off. Yeah, that one. You can see there it is again. That one really shears and folds in on itself, whereas the others don't quite behave like that. It's almost like there's a weak point around that at a high level there. It's interesting to watch how they behave.